cannot afford to miss a single moment of the next hour. Get ready to have your ideas about sexuality, love, and relationships blown wide open. It's time to get educated, entertained, and enlightened, as well as sexually empowered. You have now tuned into the Tantra Love, Sex, and Intimacy Show. Now, here's your host, Tanya Diamond.
If I don't sound like Tanya, it is me. It's me with a cold, and I'm enjoying this lovely new voice that my cold gives me. It's a
sultry sound.
It's a sultry sound.
Yeah.
That's until I start hacking, and then it becomes a non-sultry sound. But
then the sultry's out the window.
That's right. Yeah. But until then, we can just enjoy this new sound of Tanya. I have, of course, as usual, an absolutely amazing guest on my show today. His name is Chris Fletcher, and he does a lot of things that we're going to talk about. But hi there, Chris.
Hello, Tanya.
From Canada, as you can hear. And I'm going to let Chris tell you a little bit about himself. He has a resort, and he does some cool things. So, Chris, just give us a little synopsis of what you're up to.
Yeah, you bet. My partner and I, we run a retreat center, a holistic healing center on the Sunshine Coast called Half Moon Haven. And Sunshine Coast is about 2 hours out of Vancouver. And basically, I mean, it's been evolving into all kinds of really neat things. We do women's retreats. We do men's workshops. We have facilitators come out and do a lot of relationship work. My good friend Tanya actually is coming out in less than a month and doing a couple Tantra weekends. So we're totally excited about that. Jennifer and I are going to both be participating in that. So basically, our place has evolved just from more of a vacation rental place to quite a retreat where people can have sacred ceremonies, sacred relationship workshops. We have a sweat lodge here, so we do all kinds of stuff like that. I also, my background was originally in working with youth. So I was a youth counselor for about 15 years and worked with at-risk youth. I specialized in teens with sexual abuse issues and also teens with addictions. And then when I basically got, I was very passionate about that, but I wanted to move into something deeper that was shifting as I grew older myself, and that ended up being working with other men, working with other couples. I'm a family counselor as well, so I do couples relationship work, and I also do individual work with people. A lot of men. I'm working with actually more men now than I ever have, and that's what makes me really excited because I see the men now coming out of the woodwork. It's time to catch up to the women.
Yes.
And I'm totally excited about that.
Well, that is part of the reason that I have you on today, because I keep being asked what's going on with couples these days. What's going on with what I term as, all these people that are bankrupt in the bedroom. And last night on a radio program, I was asked, are we changing? Do we have to change our relationship model because there's so many incredibly strong women now with the whole corporate world and having to step up into this space? And, what's happening? What's happening that these women all of a sudden are not finding the men that they want? They're not interested in the men. And I said, it's not that the men have to step up even further, even though they do, but we've lost the dance. We've lost how to figure out how, when I come home from work and I'm all in my warrior mode and that I actually, how my man helps me, go into the feminine space and how I allow that to happen as he steps into his masculine space instead of trying to make my man my girlfriend.
Right, exactly.
Because then I'm not interested in him in the bedroom at all.
Yeah.
And so that's why I have you on here today, because we had this conversation where you were saying, I hear you bring it, you can talk to this group of men and you're dynamic and strong, and yet you obviously like sex and you obviously like men, and you can, still have that feminine aspect.
Yes, yeah. Well, one thing that I really identified, especially being in men's groups and taking different workshops over the last 5 years, what I discovered was there's a lot of men who are, for one, they're exhausted, like they're overworking themselves, they're putting a lot of time just into the work, they're not spending enough time in the relationship, and that was one thing that kept coming up. It was, I'd see these men and they'd always be working, or they'd be, with their buddies playing, at the bar, or they'd be playing sports all the time. So the area that I kept discovering that was the weak link was the effort and the time that was put into the relationship. And from that, what I saw was men were actually not wanting that. They were actually wanting to have a full-on relationship. They were wanting to have more purpose in their life. They were wanting to have, sort of more of that drive for sexual passion. And a lot of them just have lost that. They've lost that sort of deep inner purpose within themselves to really start to come alive again. And then when I saw that, I thought, no, this is an area that men want. They want to improve on, but they don't seem to have the tools to get there to do that.
Well, and we don't have the role models. I mean, there are few men, that are walking around that understand. I mean, I guess it's kind of sad to say, but what is a man? What is it to actually be a man today? And lots of people. I mean, I think David Dida has that whole 3 stages of men. Right. There's the macho, it's all about me guy. Yeah. And then there's the way too feminine dude. Yeah, your touchy-feely girlfriend guy. Stage and smoking the weed on each night rather than intimately connecting. Right. Everything's groovy. It's all good. Life's fine. That kind of And then
that second stage is more of a cohabitation kind of stage.
Right.
Where they're just cohabitating. They're kind of they maybe go for walks, but the fire and the passion is not there.
Right. And then, of course, the men that we very rarely see. Now, you're telling me there's men out there, right? The warrior is still alive.
And this is exciting to me because, when I attended one of your workshops, the men's conference in Vancouver, I was actually really, it just made me, fill with joy because I was, when you went up and spoke, those men were listening. Like, they were really asking good questions. We had a room full of probably about 80 men, right? And they were listening, and they were really going like, this is the place where they want to go. They just they want more support. They want more help to how to get there. Because a lot of men, it's tough for them to talk about their sexuality. It's tough for them to talk about intimacy. And so if you've got a man that has that desire but just doesn't have the the means to do that, then that's where they kind of get stuck. And that's where there's all the courses that you do that comes in to being so helpful for the guys today because they're ready. They're ready to do the work.
So it's not, because a lot of the guys are asking me about, technique, and I keep coming back to, it has nothing, you can have the greatest technique in the world, but if you're not bringing it from a different place, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
And what can you talk about that? Talk a little bit, because, you used to think the same thing?
Yeah, well, you know what? I think, if I look at, if I use myself as an example, sort of moving from that, because I was definitely a stage 2. I was a guy who, I was in a long-term relationship, married for 10 years, and it was it got to complacency. It just I wasn't putting that time in to the relationship, and my lesson was it took a divorce to sort of wake up a little bit on that, and that's when I started taking care of myself. And that's the thing I would say. The very first thing for a man I would recommend is to spend some time alone. Spend some time, being by yourself, connecting to what your own inner purpose is. If you can find that deep purpose in yourself, that's the very first step. It's really about loving yourself. And a lot of men don't love themselves. They're really hard. I mean, as you know, men are quite sensitive underneath. They put on this big exterior because of what we've been brought up with. What our dad teaches us, what other images in Hollywood teach us. But it's a false illusion. It's really not what women are wanting. Women aren't wanting the big macho guys anymore to just throw them around and say rude comments to them. It's not about that. And it's not also about being just a nice guy either. It's not about being Mr. Nice. What it is what drives women crazy is when a man knows himself, loves himself deeply, and really has his a true purpose in life, whether that's going out and helping others or just working on a construction project and building it and being really passionate about it. That's the key. And a lot of men are not discovering that about themselves. They're really working these jobs that are they're unhappy in, and they're not doing anything about it.
Right, and then they're medicating with porn or booze or whatever, and
whatever with pot or with alcohol.
Yeah.
And then of course you've got all the prescription drugs out there, which don't do any favors to the men's libido, that's for sure, or in terms of sex drive for men.
Right.
So that's been going on for a long time. Certainly that I've seen, but I've also seen now just recently, in the last maybe year or two, there's been a wake up with men. There's this inner spirit that back to, I do want to find my purpose. I do want to have more intimacy with my partner.
Yeah.
And from that, then I think if I go back to my story, basically, when I discovered that about myself, I started taking courses. I just started taking different workshops, energy workshop courses, which I was interested in. I started taking relationship workshop courses. I started taking warrior workshops. I joined a couple of men's groups. And what I discovered was I was starting to come alive again. I started to get my juices going. And I was like, wow, I've got so many things that I want to do. All I have to do is apply those things, really follow through with them, and stop self-sabotaging. And that was, I was on my own for 2 years and then took care of myself and was going out to dinner on my own, going to movies on my own, really discovering who I was as a man from inside of me, not from what I was told I should be from other people.
Yeah, and that's, that is incredibly powerful that we're programmed from youth to be a certain way.
Yeah.
Then you hang out with your buddies and, learn about sex, so to speak, or sports and all these things. But discovering self, I do a lot of, people say, I'll take a vacation by myself. And people are like,
one of the best things you can do.
Just what am I about? What's going on? To become, and all sorts of other societies actually do these kind of rituals, right?
Yes,
they have men's rituals of awakening and discovery, and we don't really do that. We've got beer and football.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Porn, beer, and football. Here are the men's rituals.
And you know what? And there is some intention in that. Men like to have their isolation and all that, but there's a whole other piece that men want in their life. And speaking of intention, one thing that I discovered too at our retreat center, we built a sweat lodge. We have people who come and do different, shamanic ceremonies. They do healing ceremonies. All these incredible things that are done with pure intention. There's drumming circles that we do here. There's gatherings around the fire. Sometimes it's with couples. Sometimes it's with men with men, women with women, and that's those ritualistic things that you actually put intention to, and again, that's doing that inner work because it really works on the inside of what's going on, and it also at the same time it's providing a lot of healing for people too. So because a lot of guys have a lot of wounds that they hold, they hold them inside, they don't deal with them. And what I find now is as they're taking these opportunities to take these courses, whether it's a Tantra couples retreat weekend or an intimacy workshop with yourself, that any of those things are actually healing those things inside of them and allowing that true warrior, that true sort of man that's in all of us, that passionate man, that desire for deep connection with another partner. It allows that to start coming out when you start really taking care of those places.
And I know, I'm a huge man's advocate. I love men, and you said that was pretty obvious. And I am always telling men and women in classes that, men are way more sensitive than women are about their wounding.
Right.
And the wounds are pretty, like I had a man write to me recently that says, he said, I need your help. I need to talk to you, want a consultation. And he said, I was sexually abused as a child. And he said, and it wasn't a physical abuse. My parents were very, very religious, and they would not talk about sex, and they forbid me to date. And, he's actually termed this as sexual abuse. Yeah. And in a way, he's right.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And so, I haven't heard that very often that somebody would actually say that, but there's so many forms of wounding and abuse. That first time you try to ask a girl out and she rebuffs you because her friends are standing there. Yeah. These things, and I've seen men carry these wounds, which they shouldn't seem like a huge deal, but they carry them into their 60s. Their whole lives have been inundated by this fear of being a disappointment to a woman.
Yeah, see, I think for a lot of men, like when I was in my 20s, I'm 42 now, and so when I was in college and university in my 20 to 25, there's tons of pressure. You go out to the bar, and that's supposed to be the place to pick up women, right?
Get you some.
And then, of course, it's the pressure on the man to go and connect with the woman and go ask them to dance, and then, of course, what do? It's like, okay, let's take 6 shots, let's drink all these beers to build our confidence up, that kind of thing. And that's the programming. That's the stuff that we've been brought up with as men. And what men are finding now is that they don't want to be, continuing to treat women as the objects. They don't want to be having these shallow relationships, the one-night stands that, it's like, okay, what kind of disease am I going to get tonight? They're looking for deep intimacy. They're looking for much more than that, and it's almost like there's this wake up now for this new energy with men in the workforce as well as all around us that are, our calls are the calls we're getting for men to come and do this work, come and have a sweat together, come and do a drumming circle together. It's just growing like crazy. I'd say it's tripled just in the last 6 months.
Well, that's awesome.
So I'm not sure totally what all that's about myself. I mean, other than that, there's a lot of men going, and it might be realizing that these women are saying, hey, they want they want a third stage man. They want a spiritual connection. They don't just want the sex. Much more than that. So waking up.
Yeah, and I mean, I had a couple of younger men, like in the early 20s, talk to me recently about after taking a course with me, thanking me that they now realized that the sex they were trying to get was actually the love that they wanted to give. And what they said is, I always say that men show love by having sex because nobody's taught them anything else.
Right.
And so here's this young guy, very good-looking guy, easily attracted. Women are easily attracted to him because he's just very open and very loving. And he said, I was having all this sex, and what I really realized what I wanted was I wanted to love women.
Right.
And I wanted to, be intimate, and I wanted to cuddle, and I wanted all that, but I didn't have another avenue. And now I realize, I can just hold somebody's hand.
Yeah.
And I can do all these other things. And this isn't saying he doesn't ever want sex, but it's saying that it's taken an entire...
I still like the sex, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it's taken an entirely different... It's not that drive. The drive that was driving him wasn't the sex. It was the love and the intimacy.
Right, yeah. And what I found, too, like when I met Jennifer 2.5 years ago, and I had spent time on my own, and when we got together, it started as a friendship, actually. It started as just sort of courting her. I started, honoring her as... she's a beautiful goddess, and I was like, wow, and she had also been on her own for 2 years as well. So we both had time to sort of develop our own individuality. We weren't doing the rebound effect. We weren't jumping from relationship to relationship, which a lot of people do more based out of fear and their insecurity, not based on from their own inner core, right, of finding the right reciprocal partner. And when I met Jen, it was this courting period of about 3 months, and then it got really deep and intimate, and we just started to really connect. And what I would say to other men is the sex that you can have in a third stage, conscious relationship where it's within union is so much more powerful, because I would never go back to just like a one night stand.
Procreational sex.
To me, that's so shallow now. It's more. I can see that. It's like, why would I want? I can actually turn myself on more than I could on a one night stand.
Right.
I know how to masturbate like anything.
Exactly.
And I would rather do that and practice my techniques and do my breath work than have something like just a shallow relationship. So, and the neat thing with the third stage relationship, where you're both on the same page of going deeper every time you connect in an intimate way, it really, you can go. I mean, there's so much you can have an intimate, more. I'll give Jen a 3-hour tantric massage, and she'll do the same to me. And that can be a more intimate night, or it can be more of a fiery, passionate night where you set the tone. We have a date night every Friday night. It's our night, and we shut everything down. No computers, no telephones, and we each take turns, surprising each other on what we're going to do.
That's awesome.
So mine might be a little more fiery, and let's get it on in the bedroom. Hers might be more, let's do some breath work, some soul connection, some intimacy, practices. So that's the beauty of it. Like it's always a surprise, and it always feels fresh. So it feels like you're on the first date every single time that you're together intimately.
Yeah. Well, because you're in the now, and so you are. And I use that expression when I say, okay, now remember, you're on the first date of this new thing that we're practicing, and be in that state of the first date. Well, I mean, it breaks down into, coming back to what you were saying about men learning how to love themselves. Yeah. Women need to be adored, and men need to be trusted. And this is, I like to keep everything super simple. And so these are the big key that I teach. And men will say something like, well, I don't know how to adore her, or, I mean, she's going to demand things of me, and all this, coming from the fear. And where the fear comes in is the whole, I don't love myself enough. I don't trust myself enough. And therefore I can't give in that attitude of service. Because then the service becomes like, oh, wait, she's going to control me.
Right.
And so, there's the fear-based. Women, the same thing. They're having problems with orgasm more than ever. I'm getting phone calls from women that are not able to be orgasmic with their partner.
Yeah.
And, they're like, what is it? Is it technique? Is it this? And it's no, it's the fact that, you're not trusting him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because women, they need safety. One of their core values is safety, right?
Right. And that comes from integrity. So if a man isn't trustworthy, which a lot of men aren't because they don't trust themselves, they're not following through. There's a young guy, 19. He came to one of my events, and excuse me, he has a habitual thing of being late.
Yeah.
And everybody, oh yeah, it's him. He's going to be late, type of thing. And I just took him down. I'm like, you're not going to do this anymore.
Tanja style, nice.
Right. I know. Yeah, it's the collie whoosh, off with his head. It's like you just. You stop. You're disrespecting yourself. And he's like, what? And I said, every time you enter a room, you have to say, oh, yeah, well, I'm really sorry. You already come in with your head between your knees and your tail between your legs. And, you're sorry, because you're late. I said, what? Is that the kind of man you want to be? And I said, so you don't trust yourself to show up. None of your friends trust you, and no woman's going to find that attractive.
Exactly.
And so, I asked him, I said, I need a commitment from you right now. No more late. So, that's one of those things, right?
How did he do? Did he show up on time the next time? Or?
He did, and then there's a couple of men that he's being accountable to. So
right.
I took a couple of brothers, and I'm like, help this man.
Yeah.
So men, you got to ask yourself, when you want that woman to trust you, what is it you're doing in your life that isn't living in your integrity?
Right.
And did you have to struggle with that at all, Chris, at some point in your life?
Of course, yeah, no, I mean, and it's so funny you bring up the late issue because I was in social services, and my thing was, you see all these social workers showing up late and the therapists, and mine was more like counter. It was like, okay, well, these guys are late, so I'm going to be late, right? And so I remember years of that. The one area I was never late was working with the teens I worked with, because that was where I was showing my integrity and my impeccability. But in terms of the actual other professionals, I had that same thing, and that carried me through until I met Jen, actually. And Jen, talk about calling me. I mean, and having that Kali energy. Kali, for those of you who don't know, is like an Indian god who wears the skulls of men's heads on her neck to keep them in integrity. Anytime they're out of integrity or off their purpose, she chops their heads off. And a friend of mine, Satya, and we were at a course, and he actually looked into Jen and said, yes, you are Kali's daughter. You have the energy, and what that means is for a woman to have that energy, it means they're very fiery and passionate, but they also do hold accountable the men to be on their purpose, to be in integrity, to really follow a way of being a true warrior of love and light in the world. That's basically what it's at, and that has assisted me. It's assisted me when I have been late. I'm like, man, okay, I've let some people down here. And I'm stepping into a leadership role here, so I need to be on time. So what that's done is really improved in that area, because I didn't want to self-sabotage myself anymore.
Yeah.
I wanted to really step in as a leader so I could be a role model and an example for all other men.
Right, and we do that by leading in integrity. I mean, my spiritual practice, people always ask me, what do you do for your spiritual practice? Are you sitting Zen for hours? What are you doing? And I said, well, actually, I'm peeling away the layers of even more integrity in my life, which means every time I think I'm in integrity, I check out where I can be more in integrity.
Yes.
And
there's always places that for improvement, isn't there?
Because, Kali doesn't just behead men, it's the beheading of ego.
Exactly.
It's also the creator and the destroyer are the same thing, but that means that I'm introspective in that same way with myself. And so to stand in that space, I have to, I can't examine anybody more than I examine myself.
Exactly.
So that accountability. I think we're going to go ahead and take a break here for just a moment, and we will be back talking with Chris on who I look at as an incredible man and a great role model and leader for all men. We'll be back in just a moment.
40 million sexless couples in the U.S.? Are you wondering why having sex leaves you feeling lonely? Are you suffering from the myths of sexual dysfunction? Do you know in your heart that there has to be more than what you're currently getting out of making love? To rid yourself of sexual ignorance, get more out of your lovemaking, and find out more about spiritual sexual connection, then you need to check out www.thetantrateacher.com to receive your free copy of the ebook called Secrets of the Tantra Teacher. Don't suffer another minute without the sexual loving and ecstatic bliss you were born to receive. Get to www.thetantrateacher.com right now. That's www.thetantrateacher.com.
This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action.
Is your sex life non-existent? Do sexual dysfunctions leave you soft? Is internet porn getting more than you are? Or are you paying more attention to porn than your partner? Have you tried talk therapy and it got you nowhere? You are not alone. You can be freed from sexual shame, guilt, and dissatisfaction. A visit to the Tantra Teacher is in order. Call now and mention you heard the Tantra Teacher on the radio and get a very special offer. Stop waiting for a miracle and call right now. 206-276-2735. Phone consultations or in person will get you the information you need to be successful in your love life. But you have to call now. 206-276-2735. Stop making excuses. Call the Tantra Teacher. 206-276-2735.
Now is your chance to be part of the show. Call 877-230-3062. Call in with your questions or thoughts and talk with the host and their guest. Again, that number is 877-230-3062.
Back talking to Chris Fletcher from Half Moon Haven, who in my eyes is a great role model for men being warriors today and what that actually means to be a man. And Chris, we've been having some interesting conversations. And the last thing we were talking about was integrity. And I've actually been asked, what does that word actually mean? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, to be integral in your life, it means living by your word. It means when you say something, you're going to follow through and do it. You're not just a talker. Like, there's so many people that they'll say something and they don't actually mean it. They don't mean what they say. So they're really just kind of passing the buck. They're not being on purpose. They're not being in, like, as you say, the moment, being in that moment of, no, this is, when I say something, this is what I mean.
You can take it to the bank.
Yeah, exactly.
You can,
so it's done.
So
basically, if I say something, then it's done. That's what integrity is to me. It's really, and it's being present. It's being present in every moment and intentional, being intentional in what you're saying and what you're doing, and following through, not just with the words, but implementing them into action.
Well, it's also knowing what you're capable of, because if you're saying, I'm going to do that, and you know that, it's beyond what you're capable of doing, and you're just trying to please somebody,
yes,
then that's not a good thing. Why being integrity is so important to a woman, that whole safety issue.
Yeah.
When a man, says, he shows up when he says he shows up, he follows through with what he follows through. Guess what happens as well when he says, I love you, and he says, you're sexy.
Yeah.
As a woman, you believe him.
Yeah.
If a man is not following through in any area of his life, and he's trying to tell you he loves you, and he's trying to tell you he's there for you, and he's trying to tell you he thinks you're beautiful.
Yeah.
There's that lingering doubt in the back of your mind. Well, he doesn't mean anything else he says.
Right.
Why in the world?
Exactly.
Why in the world does he mean this?
Yeah. Another part of integrity is also, I look at it as humility. It's being in a place because, men screw up. We all screw up sometimes. We make mistakes. We do come late. We do break a promise. I mean, I'm not perfect, right? That's part of life. But you can still be integral by owning up to that. And women will really appreciate if a man, admits his fault or says, you know what, and, I made a mistake. I really screwed up here. A woman has so much appreciation for that than a man who just makes excuses and says, oh, you know what, I just got caught up, I did this, and really tries to, play it off or minimize it.
Right.
That actually, again, creates more of that unsafety, that insecurity in women, because then how can they trust a man if they're not going to come clean with them on every moment.
Right. Yeah. So staying in it, admitting our issues is a big thing, and it does take a lot. And I mean, yeah, certainly, I don't think people are wanting people to be perfect. I mean, I get that thrown in my face every once in a while by people around me. Well, I'm just not perfect, and it's like, well, see, holding you accountable doesn't mean I expect you to be perfect.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And I look to what's the intent behind it. If the intention for a man is to sort of be deceptive or tell white lies to the woman, then that's not being, with integrity. But if the intention is, that they made their best effort but they got caught in traffic or whatever, then it's and they were late.
Right.
There's all kinds of scenarios. So where's the intention? If the intention is goodwill, in all instances, then you are still being integral.
Well, it's money in the bank. I mean, if you're in integrity all the time, and then once in a while things happen.
Yeah.
You've got money in the bank that generally your follow-through is good, and this must have been an extenuating circumstance.
Exactly.
If I don't show up for an appointment, people think that I must be dead. I mean, they start freaking out because, I'm so solid on, if I say I'm going to be there, then I am there, and I'm usually there early, that they get really freaked out. And so I guess that's a good thing because that means that, people bank on what I say. Yeah,
exactly. And there's a trust factor there. I mean, because you put yourself into a position where you're working intimately with men and with women, so you have to follow through with that because people need to know that they can trust you, right? And they have that with you, so that's beautiful.
Well, once again, am I trustworthy has to follow through with, do I believe in myself?
Right.
Do I follow through with myself as well, not just other people?
Yes.
Because you don't give an air of trustworthiness unless you are believing yourself.
That's so true. Yeah. And I mean, looking at you definitely seem to believe in yourself. you do some pretty amazing things in your life. So I think you've been living in that sort of state of ecstasy for a while now.
It is true, and but it is always a path. It's always a path. I'm always endeavoring to step it up even more. How much more arousal can I live in? How much more integrity can I live in? I hit that wall. I bet I can even push past that one.
Right.
Let's see what's going on with that. And that, that's my mission, and it just feels right to me. No matter what it is that I'm doing in my life, those core things need to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's what I see in you, and that's what I see in men that are stepping up into that space. And I'm meeting some guys that are pretty young that are starting to get this.
Yeah, that's what's exciting me because I'm seeing that too. Like where it used to be, the 30 to 40 group, but I'm seeing guys in their young 20s. I've got friends who are 23, 24 years old, and I remember when I was that age and what my consciousness was and what my sort of level of understanding of what women really wanted in their in their relationship was. And like I've shared that other story, it wasn't around the bars and stuff. It wasn't really what women or men are wanting. And the men I see today now, I'm excited because they're actually asking and saying, hey, how do I be more integral in my life? How do I please a woman, give her deep, intimate connections? And that's exciting to me because that my group of friends in my 20s, they weren't asking. They were like, where's the next shooter?
Right, exactly.
So it's changing, and that's really, really exciting.
So we need more role models like you, and you are stepping out into that space of being a role model. Are you doing any writing? You're teaching classes. You're doing men's groups.
Well, we have men's retreats here. So there's men's workshops that happen here. There's also we do the sweats here. So we do men's sweats, we do women's sweats, and we do combination ones. So that's another. The Sweat Lodge is it's a very healing place where people can come and basically you let go. It's a place where people can let go of some of the burdens that they've carried, and when you do that, it actually opens more space for more love, for more passion to come into your life. But a lot of men have to carry these deep wounds that they've had since childhood, and they've never had a forum to let go of it. And a lot of men won't go to see a counselor, won't go to see a therapist. That's sometimes too intimidating. Right. But what we're finding is when they come to our space, they can kind of just be as men and then do their individual work within themselves, and that's quite powerful for them.
Well, a lot of them, I'll have men say, I'm not up for the group thing. They'll call me up and I'll say, I think you need to, come to one of my classes, and they tend to be a little bit resistant. I'm not into that group thing, and it's like I always tell them, if you're sitting with your brothers, and you're hearing other men that have gone through these struggles, and the ones that are coming out the other side, and the ones that are still in the struggles, and you realize that, it's not really about isolating, which is another, characteristic that men can really get into, is that I need to carry all the burdens myself.
Yeah.
I can't lean on my woman in any way, because then I'm not manly. These kind of false things that basically isolate. So when they isolate like that, the woman doesn't feel any intimate connection.
No, for sure. Because one thing that really juices a woman is when a man is connecting with other men, they can see that there's connection, there's camaraderie, and also the other thing is men will call each other on stuff with men different than a woman would call each other on with a man.
Right. So
I like that. I like the fact, so I pick and choose. Like if there's something that's bothering me, there's certain things that I would go to Jen for, but there's also, as a man, I know there's certain things that I would just talk to a man about, and I keep that separation, and Jen, she's really appreciative of that, and just like for her, like there's things that as a man I'm not going to be, if there's some things, emotional things that she might be wanting to talk to a woman about, I'm not going to go and press her and try and go there. So she goes to her girlfriend. So, and that's a really key part too. It's like making sure you have like a good community around you and good friends to fall back on, and not to always put the dependency in the relationship.
Well, and so people say, well, that you need that. Well, that dependency, that can be too much. I mean, I do want a man that I can talk to, but I also don't want him to step in the role of my girlfriend.
No, exactly. Yeah, because if you want to kill polarity, that's one way to do it. Yeah. If the relationship's just the guy's just a girlfriend to the woman, then that's polarity really goes down big time. And really, what juices it again is having that time apart too. And I look at it as really like what Jen and I have really worked on is trying to have a fairly balanced. Like we've looked at the areas of what's important in our life, and we try to balance those out. So you've got your career, of course, that's important to both of us. We have, of course, our relationship. We have our family. We have our friends. We have our community stuff. We have our selfless service work. So all of these areas are important to us. So we try to give, a balance to all of it, and that really works. But if we, a lot of times for couples, what will happen is they'll over, balance in just one area, and then if you got one person who's just working all the time, and the other person is taking care of the kids all the time, let's say it's the woman, then you don't have polarity because the needs of both partners are not getting met.
Right, and the polarity thing is so incredibly interesting because most people don't contemplate this. As I said, women are getting, in the more career and getting getting that yang male energy going out there. Yeah. And men are trying to learn to be girlfriends. It's getting weird. It's completely getting weird. I see couples walk in all the time, and the woman is overstressed with all the doing. She doesn't trust the man to even make any decisions about anything, like to what kind of milk to buy. And the man is, drops down even further because he's not, given the trust, or he's not trusting himself to take a chance and do something. Yeah. He's getting so watered down. She's running the show. Sex life is in the tubes, just gone. With that, that's a 40 million sexless couples out there, and then they tend to think, oh well, it's because we don't have passion, or we don't. And maybe the man at that point, he doesn't have any passion, and at that point the woman doesn't either because she's a taskmaster. Yeah, exactly. And if it's at that stage, that's when both people, like the woman, needs to really ease up on, because you've got to. We call it that stage 2, where women are out there in the driving force. They're running lots of masculine energy, and they're burning out. Is what's happening. They're not they're not cultivating their feminine energy, and because they're running probably some 75% masculine energy. And you've got the men then, like who are, a lot of them are not on purpose in their life, so they end up also running more feminine, not making decisions in their life, just kind of floundering in their daily jobs, or going out and getting drunk, whatever. Well, they're kind of acquiescing all their power out. Yeah, exactly. So if you have that combination, which I know, of course, I've seen a lot of couples be going through that, and some of my friends, too, from high school, like my old friends from high school, a lot of them are going through that now, where they've got a couple kids as well, and they're really struggling because they can't seem to
they've gone on these sort of shallow jobs or shallow ways of living, and it's really affected it affects the whole family, right?
So when I say this, it gets a lot of women's hackles up. I talk about women becoming more into their feminine energy, and all those hackles rise, and it's like, I've been stuck in that oppressive place too long, and they're not really understanding the power that comes from that dance. And I call it an invitation, inviting a man into his power.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, otherwise we're disappointed. We're running around all day long, rah, 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 and then all of a sudden we want the man to step up in the bedroom.
Yeah.
Okay, buddy. All right, step up. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, what do you want to do? Oh, no. It's like, what? What? I want you to make a decision. Okay,
right.
You haven't let me make a decision for the last 10 years, and now you want me to make a decision.
So you hit it on the head, Tanya. It's like that's what it is. Like what women are wanting is they're wanting men to take charge. They're wanting men, and in a different way of not the taking charge of control. They're wanting men to sort of be in that place of which allows the woman to be in their feminine. So which means by when it's a date night, then a good example of that would be like, okay, Jen, I'd love you to wear this dress tonight. Wear that red dress that I thought was really sexy, and I'm taking you to a surprise place in Seashelt, for dinner. That be ready by 7. That's it. Like 3 simple things.
Right.
And what that allows her to do is allows her to let go of, if she's had a hard day at work and she's working, it allows her to then step into a bit of feminine, going like, I can let Chris take charge of that, and I'll go get a nice dress on, and then that starts cultivating that passion. She starts getting excited about a date, rather than It's like, it's Friday night, let's call for some pizza maybe, or what do you want? I'm not sure. I like cheese. Do you like this? And playing the wishy-washy guy thing, which then she's just like blah. Like, okay, then it's like the excitement is let's watch a video tonight.
It's all exactly.
It's completely different. There's this. You can have certainly a boring date night, or you can have a exciting, fiery, passionate date night.
And I in my Inner Circle program, where I take people for an intensive year of training with me, I do all sorts of crazy things. Like for one of my guys. We were out at dinner, because I actually do in the field work as well, out at dinner, and I just looked over and I said, order for me.
Exactly.
And he freaked, because that was a huge thing. Men want to please their women.
Yeah, exactly. And it's those little things like that, like I'll open when we go out for dates. I open the door for Jen. That's just a courtesy thing. It's like that women are wanting a bit of that chivalry to come back, and I'm excited to do that for her. Like because what I do when I do that, a simple thing like that, and I do order for her. Like we go over the menu, but when the waitress comes, I say for my partner, this is what she'd like, and then this is what we're going to have, and this is what we're having for wine. And she likes that fact, because I know her tastes already.
Right.
And so, but what it does is it allows her then to just
relax,
unwind, and be in her feminine. And then you can see she's like a lotus flower. It starts to expand and open up, and she starts to get this radiant glow when we're in that mode, when we're in that present moment, just living, a passionate date. It's beautiful. And then that leads to, the
surrender
in the bedroom.
Yeah, the surrender, not the submission. We always keep those two words apart, submission and surrender. But so then women ask me, well, how do I do that? Because there's a lot of men that would be willing to step into that space, but then women, not allowing. I'm accused quite often, wrongly so, I'll say, state here loudly to the radio, of somebody that wouldn't allow that to happen.
Right.
And it's so funny to me, because so nobody will do it. It's like the assumption is, wow, here's this really strong woman, and there's no way she's going to let me say, oh, by the way, let's go do this. I love that.
Yeah.
Because, of course, look at what I do all day long, make decisions, do this thing, and it's like to step into a space where somebody's confident enough.
Yeah.
So the man has to be confident.
Yeah.
Confident that he can navigate these decisions.
Yes.
And the woman has to. She's got to be able to let go, but that translates into be able to let go in the bedroom. Be able to let go into pleasure.
Yeah.
Because women are living in arousal. I mean, we're born to live in this amazing, incredible arousal, ripping through our bodies all the time. Mm-hmm. But we've learned to smash it and smush it and cap it off.
Yeah.
And it isn't until we let go of all the doing that we do and enter in that space of being, that we can access that.
Yeah, that's so true.
And so that's kind of like the preliminary. That's the foreplay of the uncapping of the passion.
Right.
Is being with somebody, first of all, that you trust because they trust themselves, right? They trust themselves to step up into that position. I mean, whenever I'm out with girlfriends and women are always like, oh, my God, I want to date you. And that's like because I can just step up and say, all right, well, here's where we're going. This is what we're doing. It's
right.
like,
and that's why you can teach men, see, because you can teach men as well with that.
The men are like, okay, I'll take her lead. She's obviously in command.
Yeah, exactly. Take some pointers from Tanya.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, I am going to be starting to teach a men's social etiquette class.
Yeah.
And because I do find that men are uncertain what to do. Yes,
it's just that, it's those practical things. It's all those little things that they they're just kind of, they're all thumbs a lot of the time, right? And again, it's not their fault. It's a lot of it has been,
well,
they
it's
just
just
have never
miseducation.
been shown any differently.
Exactly.
They're watching their dads, right? Who are their role models? It's their teachers, it's their dads, it's people, their friends that the people hang around with, and a lot of those role models are not showing them, how to really, honor, how to love a woman deeply,
right.
how to, create intimacy. Who's showing them that? Certainly not.
And all women want to be seen as, they want to be adored. And how do you do that? Small tips, like one of the most amazing things for most women, not all, but for most women, is the man that puts his hand at the small of your back when he's guiding you someplace.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not a lot of pressure there, right? There's just that guiding. And when I teach a man how to do that with a woman, the woman's always like, wow, because there's that feeling of safety.
Yeah.
There's that feeling of I've got to hear, how to position yourself walking down the street.
Yeah.
If a man positions himself on the outside, where there's traffic, it's all these little subtle things that nobody actually thinks about often.
That's so true. Yeah. Even like things like posture, like just taking deep breaths and not having, a lot of men will hunch they carry a lot of stress in their shoulders, and they'll hunch over. So it's just that sort of conscious awareness of reminding yourself to, be, when you're sitting or standing, like having proper posture, and that allows the proper breath work. And also in terms of, done a lot of work with the chakra alignments and things like that too, and the energy meridians that run through our body. And so the more we have them in alignment, and which also includes doing morning routines with breath work, meditation, different techniques, that all helps align the body, right, to be. And when women see that, they see, wow, there's a man who's in presence. There's a man who's, erect, standing upright, and not hunching over like that. They're carrying the weight.
And erect has a lot of things we like about it.
Yeah. It's so true.
In more ways than one. It is.
And then these are all the little things, but they make a difference. Like, women are very perceptive, and they pick up the little things. So men have to be more aware of themselves and really get in tune with their bodies.
We're not talking just about your shoes here.
No, exactly.
We're really, it's mannerism, body posture, but women also, how do we allow that? Since I am so strong, I'll be with a group of people, I'll head for the door.
Yeah.
If I don't slow down and allow the man that would open me the door to do it, he's not going to be able to get there in time. I mean, he'd have to race past me, right?
Right.
So how can women need to assist the men that would be in service, and a lot of people hate that word as well.
Yeah.
Be in service to the goddess.
Right.
Right. To be there, to allow them to do that.
That's right. Yeah. So for the woman, it is also about letting go a bit of that masculine energy, where they're used to just doing it on their own. And for women, it's the same issue as men. Like, again, their role models have been, they've watched their moms work, work their butts off, and so they get trained for that as well. And then they go, but they're not wanting that. They're getting tired. They're going like, hey, you know what? I wish we could be a little more in our feminine and allow the man to do some of that stuff. So you're so right. It's about the women kind of letting go of that sort of, need to kind of do it themselves, and then, because then it's just feeding their masculine, and that's where the burnout factor comes for a lot of women, because they're multitasking. Women are amazing multitaskers, and they can do 10 things at once. But if a man can assist by stepping up to the plate, and a woman can kind of let go and maybe just do 5 things really well instead of 10 at the same time, that helps. That gives them more energy. So then by Friday night, they've got energy instead of being all completely tired and exhausted for the whole weekend.
Well, that's what one of the women's fantasies. You're walking around asking women what the big sexual fantasy is, and they say, So I open the door, and there he is. He's standing, sweat just a little bit off his body. He's holding in his hand an amazing object, and I'm ready. And as he twitches the switch, the vacuum starts up, and he's vacuuming the living room.
That's great.
Well, it's one of those things where really, and that's what you're saying. That if men stepped into relieved some of this burden, then we'd all be okay. But once again, women's responsibility is to allow that it may not be the same way they're doing it. Yeah. But at least it's getting done.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. I wanted to bring up, something twigged with me when you were talking, but moving it into the bedroom a little bit as well, because I know it's a sex show here, so I thought, well, let's the Warrior Kid, let's move it right in, because I know we're getting short on time, too.
Mm-hmm.
But what I wanted to
4 minutes.
bring... How are we doing on time?
4 minutes. Talk
4 minutes.
fast.
Okay, well, let me get this point up then, because let's end it on a bedroom note. One thing that I've discovered with my partner and I is that to really tap in, a lot of men are either in their dark energy, their dark space of really being connected there, which leads to the cheating, which leads to guys going out and just not being integrity,
right.
Sort of putting down women in a way, and not just their own partners but others. And the other area is the heart energy, and you see these great guys. They're kind of good-hearted guys. They're but they're a little bit wishy-washy. And what I find has really, especially for myself over the years, is really doing that practice of connecting the dark and the heart energy and working with both of them. And what happens in the bedroom when you've got that sort of deep connection, when you can bring that sort of suppressed dark energy and bring it up and breathe it through the heart, women go crazy. Like my partner, when I am in that space and I'm connecting all of myself, because it's not about suppression anymore. It's not about me saying, okay, well, I've got some dark sexual passionate things about myself. It's not about shunning that. It's about connecting that to, because I'm a really heart guy. I'm heart based in a lot of ways. So when I've cultivated connecting those two, that just exploded in terms of the woman again being able to let go of her sort of masculine and be much more in a full feminine, and it really adds spice to the bedroom.
Well, that's when you stop being the good-looking package with the nice heart, and you've amped it up with all this testosterone and sexual energy to it. And I've got all these guys walking around that are, I can walk beside them. I'm standing in this whole group of good-looking packages, great-looking men, and I don't feel anything. That tells me there's a problem.
That's so true.
Because I should be feeling really amped up standing in the middle of these.
Yeah,
but they're all leading from upper chakras. They're leading from their heads or their hearts and not bringing it. And, heart energy without the lower chakras, without the tribe, family, without the sex, it's wussy. Yeah. It's wussy. It's not committed. It's not passionate. And that's why I'm here to tell everybody that's sitting in purple and oming and not living from the rest of their sexual energy and that you're not bringing it.
Yeah, that's so true.
That is that's nice. And, nice is a word that I don't think should be used for much.
No, exactly. Well, and the reason I brought that point up is because a lot of the stuff that you teach, Tanya, is so imperative to helping men connect that heart and dark energy together. Yeah. Like just the breath work alone, that helps that process. And a lot of the techniques that you teach really, really bring that to home for men, for sure.
Well, I have very much appreciated having you on here. I will be having you back for sure because we still have lots of things to talk about.
I know. I think we just touched the tip of the iceberg,
we have. And I'll be seeing you in March, on March 20th, for my Couples Intimacy Weekend there at Half Moon Haven. Yeah. HalfMoonHaven.com is where you'll find Chris and his lovely partner, Jennifer. Yeah. And keep looking for amazing things that I'm up to all the time. My website, learningtantra.com. Go to that little box and put in your name and your email address because you will get so many things from me if you do that, little tips and secrets and all the rest of that you will not want to miss. So if you're listening to me, get your little fingers typing right now. And I believe we are coming to the end. We are. Everybody have a great time, and I'll see you next week. Bye.
You have been listening to the Tantra Love, Sex, and Intimacy Show with your host, Tanya Diamond. Don't miss next week's show at Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Until then, visit our website at www.tanyadiamond.com. That's TANJA for more information on workshops and classes.